All right, so a lot of people saw the how to snatch more than you power snatch video. So we had a lot of comments of people wanting to know how to clean more than you power clean. So the first thing we're going to look at is the front squat, obviously, because that's the catching position of the clean. And we want to make some fixes with the front squat first and foremost in the bottom position so that we can fall into the bottom position a little bit faster and more efficiently. So Adam's going to unrack off of the rack here, and we're going to kind of figure out some things. If you want to step to the side. So all we're looking for is equal parts knee and hip. So depending on your body type, it will vary a little bit. But go ahead, Adam, and pause at the bottom, and then stand back up. So what we're looking for, we're not going to be shifting back too far into the heels, and we're also going to allow our hips crease to get below the knee. So that's basically what we're looking for. Equal part hip, equal part knee. Go ahead. Hip crease below the knee, and we get good ankle flexion as well. Come back up and rack. Adam and I both have pretty bad ankle flexion, but we've figured out like what happens a lot when people have bad ankle mobility and flexion and extension is that they rely a lot more on hip mobility, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you're going to have more of a vertical shin, which usually means you're going to use less of your quad. So for me, every time that I front squat, I'm thinking about using my quads. So as I descend into the bottom, I'm actually thinking more quad than I would like to. A lot of times I would feel much more comfortable back here, and you can see this angle is pretty vertical.
I was going to say, we want to get back down in there.
Yeah, this is more comfortable for me. As you can see, my hips are too far back. It's really hard for me to get into a nice position with the front rack. It's going to be hard regardless without weight. All right, so what I try to do is feel like the moment I want to stand, I can use my quad. See? There. This is usually going to be the difficult part for a lot of front squatters and back squatters, is right here, having the knees forward and not immediately shifting back, so then we have to play catch up. Right, that's going to work with the back squat and the front squat. So as long as we're doing that, we're going to be okay. Okay, so it's more about coordination and having control over the barbell with the full leg when it's racked. So this next drill is, it's actually really difficult to do the strict variation, but we're going to call it a tall clean. There's a tall snatch variation as well. And essentially all you're doing is learning how to drop without jumping. Dropping without jumping. A lot of people can't even do this without weight, right? So instead of going like this, right? One more time. Instead of doing this, I'm actually going to just go like this. Okay, so the idea is that we're going to be able to pull the bar and do that exact same thing. So instead of jumping, we're going to pull and drop. That strict variation, try with just the barbell at first. Build your weight, but again, it's very strict. You got to think of like you're a bodybuilder just doing an upright row. Just being a bro, pulling like this, and then you drop. That would be the most strict variation. The next one, you can kind of pull, suspend the bar a little bit, and then drop underneath it. So Adam, go ahead and do that one.
And as you're dropping, you're continuing to think about racking the bar forcefully with the arms.
Yeah. I mean, you pretty much have to, or else it's going to slam down or go somewhere else. So you can do this one a little bit faster. Just kind of arms and go. Boom, boom. Yeah. Yeah, good. Very important to be able to do this if you want to understand how to get under the bar, secure it, and get low. We're going to work on the pull now and try to get as much that we can done in the pool so that it becomes easier for us to catch with our hips in the proper position. I think another reason, similar to the snatch, why people can't clean as much as they power clean is because their hips, when they make contact, they start sliding forward, right? So they're forward, they're on their heels, on their toes, and then when they extend, they might extend up, but then they have to come back down, and their hips are forward. So then they have to end up sliding back. Right, this is actually what happens a lot. Go back to that original position, right there, right? It's really hard to get depth with your hips this far forward, okay? So then if they start going low, they start doing that, and the bar dumps out in front of them. So all we want to do is practice a few things. One thing is like very underrated, it's the grip on the bar. When we're standing in this standing posture, if Adam's looking forward, if we're really loose in the wrists, kind of like this, now imagine making contact here and then lifting the elbows up, right, and maybe pulling them back. We start getting this position where you might even be like that. Because if we're moving fast, this is actually a much more common position if we're moving fast and you have loose wrists. If we're here, that's actually not bad at all.
It's close to the body.
That's what we want, right? The wrist angle pointing down is what we're looking for on contact. So a lot of times people have very loose wrists, very loose grips. They make contact and it's fast, and then they kind of pull the elbows back and they get this really loose wrist position. It actually ends up looking like this, right? Like they may make contact and they're already dropping the elbows, right?
And it's out front, so
It's
they're
out-
probably going to jump to it, or they're going to have to rip it back.
Like, it's unlikely that if they're really loose and kind of back like this, that they're going to lead with their wrists. That they're going to be able to even get their wrists up. They're already going to have their elbows working on their way down, and we get a huge mess. So think about having that kind of feeling the bar in your hands, right? Gripping on the bar, so that when we make contact, we can stay over and stay vertical. So that's another thing here that's going to help a lot, is knowing how to, and we'll just do it with the PVC, but knowing how to make contact and rack the bar without having to go out like this. That's a huge part of cleaning that I think people miss, is we're so obsessed with triple extension, extending at the hips, going forward, that just a standing position right here is enough extension. So we have to learn how to make contact, stay in the same line, and drop and rack the bar like that without having to go back like that. Okay, so all Adam's going to do with the PVC is just kind of make contact and rack the bar without throwing his chest back. Go ahead. There. It's easy as that, right? So all we're going to do with the barbell now is we're going to do a similar thing, but it's going to make it even harder, is we're actually going to do no foot movement clean from below the knee. So go ahead, Adam.
Perfect.
That was cool.
Holy
That was
smokes.
really cool. Okay, go ahead. One more. See, I love this drill. A couple of reasons why I love this drill. One, coming from a standing posture is always good when you're learning how to clean or snatch. Coming from a standing posture, because you're here. If a lot of times people, when they set up on the floor, it's hard for them to get their back in the right position. It's hard for them to get set up properly. When they're standing tall, it can be here. Secondly, not allowing the feet to move makes it really difficult for whoever's cleaning to end up getting their hips forward, right? Because if your feet are glued, your hips come forward, and you have to squat underneath, you're making it extra hard for yourself, because now you have to go back like this without moving the feet. So intrinsically, you have to now make contact here and catch, right? Learning how to make contact in the clean and keep your chest close is one of the hardest things, but one of the most valuable things you're going to do. And Adam actually does that really well. Let's watch it one more time. So he's actually going to set up maybe a little bit wider with the feet, whatever, but it's going to be his catch width, not his pull width in the feet. 2 more, Adam. Good. Keep that chest involved. Beautiful. I had this issue where and it would typically actually result in like a big jump back in the clean. I was pretty good at cleaning more than I power clean, but it actually took me watching some of the best and seeing how they're able to literally rack the bar without the hips going forward. Right? Being able to just be right here and rack the bar. So for a while, I would just be like this, right? And I would jump back a bit more. But after a while, I just was like, I would watch Alexei Tarakti, I would watch all these guys just catch, like they would make it, when they're warming up, they would just make it obvious that they weren't going to bring their hips forward. They would just, even though it might have been a little too extreme, they just did it. They'd just be right here. And, oh no, Zach, we're not extending. It's like, when we get to a maximal lift, like, you're either extending or you're not, right? There's a separation between when you're good enough to know how to warm up and practice certain aspects of the lift, to once you get heavier, to just lifting weights. That's another thing to think about, and that's it.
Hey! First try.
First try.